Welcome to Sex Crimes Defense Podcast with Chance and Jay. Chance Oberstein is a defense attorney who handles sex crimes in California. I'm a media professional. This podcast is for informational purposes only and is not intended to be legal advice. Chance, how you doing?
Good, good. Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Last time we were talking about Alexis von Yates. Maybe we can make this part 3 of 3. So she invoked the right to remain silent. How do you say that?
Well, she did. That's exactly how you say it. She invoked her right to remain silent, which was a good thing. Very good thing.
Do we know then she invoked her right to remain silent when was she questioned by the police? When did she invoke this right? Do we know?
Well,
Yeah.
the media says upon arrest, so I'm going to guess that they approached her and asked her if she would talk with them, and she said no. I'd prefer to have an attorney present. I prefer to remain silent until I do. And I think that she probably understood better than most, and I underline that talking to the police without legal representation is a mistake.
This is an important moment because here she is. She's going to be arrested, taken into custody. She can either talk or remain silent. Is she getting arrested and booked either way?
Well, yeah, I think in this case probably either way, because of what was reported by her husband and or her stepson. But what she's doing is she's choosing to rely on legal counsel in order to work this thing out. And, whether you're guilty or innocent, the best defense starts with knowing your rights and seeking legal counsel. And so, in her way, she's staying informed, she's staying safe, and she's doing what would be the most intelligent thing. She's remaining silent.
Do people think that if they talk, they won't be arrested?
I think that people think that they can talk themselves out of an arrest or they can help themselves, or maybe they can build in a defense of some kind, or they can, I think that there's a lot of ideas that go through their head thinking that the police are there to help them. And what they don't understand is that that's just not the case. The police are not there to help them. If police are questioning you, as I said before, it's because they suspect you or see you as a potential suspect. So they're gathering evidence against you. They're not trying to clear your name. So there's really no way that you're going to talk your way out of that. It's best to remain silent and let others do the talking for you if there's witnesses that actually witnessed it, if you're factually innocent, not yourself.
According to the arrest affidavit, on there's kind of, I guess, an inmate card, she was booked in November of 2024. The incident happened in July and I think interviews took place in August. What happened? What do you think happened? What's the normal process? She gets booked on November 6th. And maybe she's asked to make a statement at that time. What's happening here, do you think?
Well, unsure what's happening other than she's probably already lawyered up and she's probably spoken to a lawyer and the lawyer's already advised her, don't say a word, let me handle it from here. I think that's the most important thing to take away from this because, it's most people, it's funny because you would think that they would otherwise know to do this. Most people talk. And some people say, well, I really don't want to talk. And then they add a few things. And the next thing you know, they're talking. Sometimes they're approached in different ways and they feel comfortable. They're told this is no big deal. You're free to leave at any time you want to talk about this thing. I mean, it can be really tricky. And people make all kinds of statements that come back to haunt them. Obviously, I think, to me at least, someone has advised her already and she's following that advice.
She pleaded not guilty. I suppose that was at the arraignment.
Oh yeah, I would suspect that's exactly what she did on advice of her attorney.
And then I'm trying to find out what happened next. Do we know where this case stands?
No, I don't. I'm just commenting on the facial reports on it
Yeah.
for the purposes of illustrating this point.
Yeah.
But she has started off very well in a very poor situation. I mean, let's face it, it's a horrible situation. And already many people have read these things and have made up their mind that she did that just based on the reporting, which is awful.
Yeah. It's just disturbing details, underage sex, etc. She was a nurse. That seems to be another thing that happens in when we read these articles is they drag out, we're going to talk about a case in the future where this lady was a real estate agent, a church volunteer, and it's all just dragged out in the headlines just to lump it all in that they're just this they've been this person hiding among society with all these ill intentions.
Well, yeah. I mean, and that's what you expect to find in social media is all these assumptions, of guilt. It's just conspiracy theory, smoking gun, and guilt. It's a very, very hard thing to do once that happens and it's out there, to even select a jury under those circumstances, because if someone hasn't heard about it, they're what? Living under a rock. So it just taints the whole process. And that's why it's so important from the very beginning to start to understand how to move in ways to protect yourself. And I say this, whether a person is guilty or innocent, it just makes perfect sense to do that. You always you just things get piled on you, just in an amazingly fast way, and before you know it, if you've added into the mix, it gets exaggerated, bent out of shape, and it comes back to haunt you. And luckily for her, at the beginning, this is not the case. Although the media appears to already have concluded that she's guilty of this crime.
And I guess I can't stress enough how I still, even by the admission of the stepson in the affidavit, it really doesn't matter what the quote unquote child victim thought or what part they played. Because, right, as an adult, and if they're a minor, it none of that matters.
Not for purposes, I think, of general analysis, coming from the public. I don't think so. I think, we think in terms of, you know, what we perceive, the perceived facts, whether even they're innocuous, we always tend to see them in exaggeration. We perceive them in a way that causes us to make some pretty inaccurate conclusions, which this case may illustrate. I don't know. It would be interesting to see what the final outcome was and exactly what happened.
To me, that seems to be part of the really hard. Uh, it's difficult to grasp how before the incident and or arrest, the perception of the relationship versus the perception of the relationship after the incident or arrest. It's like they're completely different worlds.
Yeah, and you got to remember also that if you read it closely, there's only one incident, and it happened when the husband came home, and they were on. Just this is just one incident, and if you're thinking about all the time they spent together before, it's just kind of strange that it would just happen one time and that would be the time. Um, there's just a lot of things here that are worth investigating and looking into, including the dynamics between the stepson and his father and his stepmother and the stepfather. There's just a lot of dynamics that need to be explored before you come to the conclusion that either of them, either the stepson or her husband, are credible.
If this goes to trial, will those things be explored more by
I would ex- I would
her
expect
attorney?
so. I
Yeah.
would expect so.
Wow. And then, so how would discovery of other incidences, the dad's behavior, etc., be investigated.
Well, of course, you're going to want to look into their backgrounds in every single way to see whether or not they're credible people. And, you're going to explore different aspects of their background. You're going to explore their social media. You're going to explore things that they've done in the past. There's a lot of things that go into an investigation. But if someone's going to say that you did a particular thing, they've got to be believable. And their background and history should tell us whether that is so for the most part.
I'm really looking forward to seeing where this case heads. And there's so many other cases to try to wrap our arms around and understand. We'll be doing that in the coming weeks here on Sex Crimes Defense Podcast. Thanks so much for joining us again.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.